7:30 p.m. Next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. The next item on the agenda is approval of agenda, but we do want to make one change where we want to bring up under new business, item A, the vote on the CTA grievance to be the first item on our agenda. So I need a motion to approve the agenda with the
I'll make a motion to
moving.
approve the agenda with that change.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Fiorello, second by Mrs. Rogalski. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes 6-0, and just for the record, Mrs. Feather is not here tonight. So the next item on the agenda right now is new business, item A, vote on CTA grievance 2021-2022-13.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Fiorello.
I will make a motion to deny the grievance.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to deny the grievance. Do we have a second for discussion? Or a second?
No discussion.
No discussion, sorry. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. DeMonica. So we have a motion to deny with a second by Mr. DeMonica. Yeah, we can do a roll call. So we'll do a roll call starting from Mr. DeMonica's end. So second, so if you say yay, then you are denying the grievance. Mr. DeMonica. Mrs. Rogalski.
Yay.
Mr. Fiorello.
Yay.
Mr. Collins.
No, I support the grievance.
Ms. Smith. And the chairperson votes yay. It passes 5-1. Thank you for allowing us to do that. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I think I have to read all this. A approval of minutes, the regular meeting 9/22/2022, the approval of minutes of the executive session 9/8/2022. I don't believe we have the 9/22/22 tonight, so without item B2. The enrollment report 10/1/2022, school police report 9/1/2022, school bus inspection reports 10/1/2022, residency truancy report 10/1/2022. So we have a motion by Mrs. Rogalski to approve the consent agenda minus item B2. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Smith. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is personnel announcements. Mrs. Duncanson?
Thank you. Just 4 items tonight. I have 2 appointments, an internal appointment of Jamie Miller to ELA Essentials Academic Coach, 1 year only. That's an internal promotion effective August 31st, 2022. And the appointment effective October 11th, 2022 of San Giovanni Vinikar, Science Grade 7-8, North Cumberland Middle School as a 1 year only position. 2 resignations tonight, Lynn Diabasi, effective 10/2/2022, paraprofessional ICANN at Garvin, and Diane Bennett, effective 10/21/2022, reading specialist at Garvin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Duncanson. The next item on the agenda is report out of executive session meeting on 10/13/2022, report out of executive session votes. We did not take any votes, and because we'll be reconvening, Mr. Adams, we don't vote to seal the minutes at this time, do we?
No, we'll have to come out of exec
And then vote to seal. Okay. The next item on the agenda is superintendent's report. Dr. Thornton.
Madam Chair, good evening. 3 quick things for you. First, in case you don't know, it is National Principals Month. Our principals, as you know, work extremely hard, probably now more than ever after the pandemic. It's a real difficult job, and we do recognize all that they do. Second, the flu is coming around, and so are the flu shots. To stay as a form, I would say be an influencer. We had our first flu clinic this past week, 2 more clinics coming up. Monday, 10/24 at 4 o'clock at the high school caf, and again, November 16th at 4 o'clock at the high school cafeteria. So if you haven't got your shot already, you should really think about getting your shot. Last thing, every meeting I talk to you about construction, I thought now I'd show you pictures instead and show you some of the stuff that's happening. So some quick pictures of the construction in the various locations for you. First, we have at Cumberland Hill. You know about the cafeteria, and we found those cracked beams, and the metal did come in. Here it is coming off the truck. Each piece weighs north of 800 pounds. Each wooden beam needs a metal piece on both sides. And how do they do it, you ask? They have 2 lifts, scissor lifts, that bring up the beam all the way to the ceiling. And then they have lag bolts that go through all the wood, all the way across. So that's the easier one. That's the hard one with the crack right there you can see. So that's the one they have to really work on. So that's already well underway. There you got another example of the metal beam going in. At the high school, something I'll credit Mr. Pignano with, he was relentless with this. Our high school heating system was very antiquated. And for many years, Mr. Pignano tried to get the funding to make the change. Finally, this past year, his efforts paid off, and we now have a modern heating system in the boiler room. So I want to show you that. Here's what they look like. It's impressive. They're much smaller. The older ones look like something you'd see probably on an old ship. We have 3 of these, and they're very efficient, and it's very exciting. There they are, all 3. Actually, getting them in was quite the feat. They had to go in and then lower them down many feet to get them into the boiler room. But that's final work's being done. They're working long hours, working weekends, putting in all the pumps, all those things. Mike, do we have a date when it's fully charged, when it's ready to go? Yeah, so firing up next week. So it's been really impressive. And that's Paul Murphy and E&E. Once again, they did a great job. That's the team just doing the work and the boilers. There they are again. The second piece, the Wellness Center has had a recurring leak problem on the roof, and before it was kind of a drip. Now it's more than a drip. There are several locations. I went on the roof with Mr. DeJesus last week. There he is putting his finger through the roof right here, and here we have some patches that were done. We're getting a quote right now to do the entire, I'll call it a cap, the entire cap or dome. That's the main part that has a problem. Some shingle work's being done already by Eagle, the company Eagle, but this cap really is past its useful life, so we have to get a quote on that. So that's going to be happening. At Ashton, of course, you know the new addition, and we have basically just the foundation of rough plumbing. Nothing too exciting to see except just for the foundation is in, and some of the plumbing is in, so that's moving along. And once again, that's Ashton, another view. Garvin, we have new site work and demolition all happening at the same time. And here we have the new footprint. That's the new cafeteria, the new Da Vinci room. That's where it's all going to go. Another view of the new section. Here we have, what did I do? Mr. Chandler, what did I do? I don't know. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chandler. So, second floor classroom. This is part of the old building, circa 1920, the original Garvin footprint. You can see here the old studs and the old stack. So it's quite the building. There's the second floor again, and that's the old library, now completely gutted, and the doors are off and the ceiling's open. So that's already been opened up. This is what was the cafeteria and kitchen, and that is now all demoed. We went through all the appliances, and we're keeping some of the items we can keep, the freezer, that type of thing, and replacing other pieces we had to replace. But that was the cafeteria, probably the worst caf we had in district. So it's really exciting to get the new cafeteria coming online. BF Norton, we did something with Mr. Fiorillo's help and the mayor's help. We had a parking problem at BF for years. The town came out in force, and they cleared the area, pulled the stumps out, leveled it, and put down some material so we can add around 28 parking spaces at BF Norton. Huge difference in BF Norton. So that's a nice outcome. Really want to thank the town for their help. That's what it looks like now. That was all growth and trees and just really a bad situation. Community, new site work here. That's the cafeteria, 10,000 square feet. It's a large cafeteria. That's by code. You use so many square feet per child. That's the size. It's going to be a large footprint for the caf and Da Vinci space. So that's another view of the cafeteria. And once again, a lot of work in the sewer underneath. The pipes weren't pitched correctly back in the day. They had to re-pitch a lot of the pipes. That's why it took so long to kind of get out of the digging mode. That's all going in right now. Also, one thing they did that was really creative, they actually had a underground tank that, had we removed it, would have been costly, smelly, and problematic. Instead, with the engineer's help, we agreed to fill it with cement and use it as a footing for the new construction. So that was a good outcome. So that was right over here where they're filling it in. I think, Mike, is that the end of my? Yeah. So those are the slides. So it is ongoing, and happy to answer any questions on construction.
Mr. Collins?
Thank you, Dr. Thornton. I do have a question. Just first question is the Cumberland Hill cafeteria, what's the ETA on that being completed?
The goal for that is Halloween.
Okay.
The beam should be in now as we speak. Then we do the wiring, the fire system, all those things. We're also going to scuff and poly the floor, make it look nice, and get it all in there. So Halloween is the goal.
And my other question is, all these other projects are on schedule?
We are on schedule. Right now, Cumberland Hill, we're doing what's called the punch list. That's all those little things. So, for example, on Saturday, they came in, did some of the woodwork. The bench went in Cumberland Hill in the front. All the woodwork framing went in. We're fixing some of the music chairs that have to get fixed. We have a list of things. The shades are coming in that are fire retardant for all the glass. The cubbies are being installed each morning by Will and his team. So it's all going to plan right now.
Mr. Fiorello?
Yeah, at today's renovation meeting, Dr. Thornton, Collins said that the beams were all set. They're in place, and next week they will start on all the ceiling work.
Any other questions? Yeah, it is nice to see the pictures, yes. Anything else, Dr. Thornton?
All set?
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is reports of standing committees, starting with Fiscal Management Subcommittee update. Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, fellow committee members. We have payment of the bills this evening. Oh, I'm sorry, the Fiscal Management Subcommittee met this evening. We have payment in the bills of $2,506,470.10. We have 3 resolutions before the committee this evening. Mr. Prignano is going to give a brief summary of 2 of them. And the only other thing from Fiscal is Council President Kinch has called a ad hoc committee to take a look at 5-year budget projections. I will be on that committee. We will meet for the first time on Monday evening. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Next is the Policy and Procedure Subcommittee update. Mr. Fiorello.
Yes, policy did meet on Tuesday night. We discussed the new state-required suicide prevention policy. I'm going to ask Dr. Santa to stand up and just kind of give a brief description of the process that she went through putting that policy together. We did not vote on it. It's still a work in progress.
There we go. So last spring, it was passed in legislation, the Nathan Bruno and Jason Platt regulation stating that school districts had to provide suicide prevention training to both their students and the staff for middle school and high schoolers, as well as the staff. So we had to create a policy to discuss what would happen, how we're going to do training, what do we do if there is a student who is actively having suicidal ideation, and we had to create a policy of how to, postvention, what happens afterwards, and things along those lines. So we outlined, I actually compiled almost every policy that I've involved in, I compile it from multiple sources. So I used another district's policy in combination with the model policy from Rhode Island Department of Ed. I will say the model policy from the Department of Ed wasn't really a policy, it was more like policy with some procedures thrown in and RTI triangles. It didn't make a lot of sense, so I can only take pieces from there. So essentially pretty comprehensive. It also identifies who can do risk assessments. We do a lot of risk assessments in the district. If a student were to make a comment, then a school psychologist or social worker or one of our consulting clinicians would be able to do the risk assessment. So it outlines that. Also outlines, I think, some key pieces would be if a parent refuses to come get the student, then we would call 911 and ambulance to have them picked up. I did add in there that that would be at the cost of the parent, not at the district. We've had, unfortunately, some occasions where we've had to, for a mental health issue, send someone by ambulance, and the parents have often asked us to reimburse them. But if a student breaks their leg, they don't ask us to reimburse them for that type of a ambulance ride. So that's a piece that's in there. It also talks about our ability to, if you have to do a risk assessment and we still feel the student's at risk, they can have an emergency evaluation. We usually set those up through Community Care Alliance because it's local, right down the street. And we can require that they have something written from that assessment before returning to school. That's been well established as a regulation. So it just outlines all those different components. Did I hit what you wanted, Mark? Is there anything else? Yeah.
Mr. DeMonica.
This would probably be for Mr. Fiorello. I thought if you were a Cumberland resident and they couldn't bill the insurance company, that because you're a resident of Cumberland, the bill got waived for an ambulance.
I have no knowledge of that. Perhaps,
I think we should check
Yeah.
to make sure, but I thought that the town waived the payment of the bill if you were a resident and they couldn't collect from the insurance company. So, something we need to look at.
yeah, that's definitely something we'll look into. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fiorello.
Yeah, I just want to
one
mention
more,
that,
sorry.
no, just that this policy will probably be voted on in policy at our meeting in November, I would think.
Thank you. Next is the Achievement Communications Subcommittee update. We did meet on September 22nd, and we used that meeting for all of the coordinators in Mr. DeMonta's office to give us an overview of their goals for the year. So MLL, ELA, science, math, the high school, and really look at what they're trying to achieve over the course of the next 12 months and beyond. So it was, I felt, a really, really helpful meeting for us to see how everything connects together, and especially as we look to connect what's happening from the middle school to the high school level. Future topics, well, probably at this meeting in December, the RICAS scores, and this meeting, probably at our next one in October, the strategic plan. So more to come. Next item is the District Health and Wellness Subcommittee update. Mrs. Rogalski had to leave. We will have to make a note of that in the minutes, so we don't have an update. Next item on the agenda is comments from the public. Okay. And then next is new business. We already covered item A. Item B, vote to approve the updated 2022-2023 school safety plans.
Madam Chair, I'd ask for a vote based on the discussion in the executive session.
First, I'd like to thank Dr. Masterson for all the hard work that he puts into this program that has always been a high point in Rhode Island, quite honestly. And I will make a motion to approve the new plan.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second with discussion?
Second for discussion, Mr. Collins.
I know we say this every time, but, obviously, people want details about the safety plan. Obviously, you can't give out specific strategies and trainings and all the other stuff, because you could be jeopardizing or compromising the safety and security of not only, the students, the staff, anybody, even in law enforcement, anybody else, any first responder. But I also want to echo what Mr. Fiorello just said and thank Dr. Masters, and I feel very safe with my children attending Cumberland Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fiorello, second by Mr. Collins. All in favor? Aye, opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item is discussion and a vote to approve the homeschool instruction request for the 2022-2023 school year.
Madam Chair, you have 2 new requests.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fiorello. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That passes 5-0. Next item, discussion and a vote to approve resolutions. Mr. Collins.
Good evening. We have SCR-2022-07 FY 23 amended school budget, ESSER 3, SCR 2022-8 fiscal year 23 amended school budget, middle school salaries, and then finally SCPR-10-2022 121 engineering and testing services, JJM, Cumberland Hill Elementary School to Fana Engineering. And I've asked Mr. Prignano to speak on behalf of what we mentioned at the last meeting, and I presented to the town council about us being in compliance with ESSER 3 funding, which is the impetus for the first 2 resolutions. Mr. Prignano, thank you.
There we go. Yeah, good evening, everyone. The resolution that Mr. Collins is referring to, moving money between McCourt and North Cumberland Middle Schools, is because of requirements of ESSA. We had added funds to McCourt, but a lot of it was federal dollars and ESSA dollars. The requirements of ESSA, you can't reduce your local contribution. So what we're doing is we're moving some positions from North Cumberland Middle School to get that local dollar amount up over where it was last year. And also, you can't reduce the number of positions. This gets us back to the number of positions we had last year. You can't reduce positions in your poorer schools. So McCourt and BF Norton, we couldn't, BF Norton was okay. We hadn't reduced any positions, but McCourt we had. So we've added these jobs from North Cumberland, but we've backfilled at North Cumberland with ESSA money. We're adding a guidance person with ESSA dollars. We've took an essentialist coach that was all at, I guess it was all at McCourt. We've split it between the two schools now. So North Cumberland is staying pretty much the same, but they're going to be using more ESSA money to fund positions, where McCourt will be using local dollars, which is a requirement. I don't know if there's any question on the positions. I can, either myself, Dr. Thornton, or Tony could speak to any of the positions here if you have questions on them, but that's basically what's happening. We're just putting ourselves in compliance with what RIDE is requiring of us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brignano.
I just question. I do not make a motion because I was going to offer people an opportunity to ask any questions before I make the motion. Good. All right, so I just want to also add that these 3 resolutions passed Fiscal Subcommittee 2-0, and I would move passage of all 3 resolutions to the full committee.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve resolutions 1, 2, and 3.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Mr. DeMonica. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item, also Mr. Collins, discussion and a vote to approve payment of bills.
Payment of the bills. We have payment of the bills in the amount of $2,506,470.10. This also passed Fiscal Subcommittee 2-0, and I would move passage to the full committee.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve payment of bills. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. DeMonica. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is school committee comments, school liaison reports. Any comments from the school committee? Mr. Collins.
I do. Mrs. Duncanson mentioned Diane Bennett resigning for another position. I actually know Diane. I worked with her several years ago, and we were in the midst of layoffs in Taunton. And we worked at the same middle school, and we were all kind of in flux, and I had mentioned to her, I said, geez, I've been looking for jobs. I live in Cumberland. She lived, not too far from here, and I'm like, they don't have any history jobs, but they have a reading specialist position. She ended up here, and she's leaving, I think, the 21st. So I heard from her yesterday, and I wish her well. Very good person.
Yes.
And then, in the spirit of, I always seem to be here on family celebrations. Today is my daughter's 15th birthday, so there's a less than 0% chance that she's watching, but I want to wish Nora a happy birthday, honey.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I spend
Happy birthday,
anniversaries,
Nora.
birthdays.
Mr. DeMonica.
Today's my daughter's 25th birthday today, adopted from the Ukraine when she was 2 years old. But I would just like to say that it's disturbing today that the high school had to have a bomb scare called in by someone from Massachusetts, and I'm glad that the fast work of everybody, we were able to identify the person, and he was arrested, and we hear he's going to be charged in Cumberland about the bomb threat, so it's disturbing that this has to happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, the next item on the agenda is vote to go into executive session for discussion on items referred to Rhode Island General Law 4246-5. Earlier this evening, we were not able to finish our executive session, so we will need to go back into session. Do we have to take a vote to go back into session?
I'll make a motion to reconvene.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to reconvene into executive session. Second by Ms. Smith. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0, and we will go back into executive session. Thank you, everyone. Oh, it's 7:56.